I've just got growing and aging population. Okay, so this is like the last dot point. It's a standalone. Let's go through it. So looking at the syllabus dot points, we've got healthy aging is the first one. Okay, what is healthy aging and why is it important? Healthy aging reduces the risk of illness and disease when growing older, as well as the burden on the healthcare system by maintaining physical, dietary, and mental health. Okay? The healthier an individual, the less burden that person places on the health and aged care services in Australia. Older people are encouraged to remain in the workforce for as long as possible. Okay, so you think about it, if you age healthily, like eventually when you get old, you are probably going to need medical care. Okay, it is extremely rare that you live a long and healthy life and then pass away at home, like in your sleep, in a peaceful environment, and there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, that's extremely rare. Lovely if it happens, and I hope it does. I hope it happens to all of you and everyone you know when you're really, really, really old. But most of the time, people actually develop conditions. And if you have a condition, then you need ongoing support, whether that's medical support or emotional support or social support or just support getting around or support getting your groceries. You need something. And if you need something, someone needs to do that. That's a burden. Okay, you are now impacting someone else's life because you need help. All right. So healthy aging is aiming at trying your absolute best to live as long as you can without requiring help and assistance from people to just continue living a healthy life. All right, that's the goal. Increased population living with chronic disease and disability. Okay. So due to advances in medical care, mortality rates are declining, okay? But morbidity rates are still high. If an elderly person suffers from CVD or dementia or stroke, the common conditions, while they may survive, they also may be disabled for the remainder of their life, okay? Placing a burden on the healthcare system, which consists of 24/7 care, hospital beds, nursing home space, etc., all right? Hence the importance of healthy aging. I've spoken about my pop a few times now, who had dementia and then passed away. For the last 4 or 5 years, he was in a nursing home, so he needed 24-hour care, which are, nurses working around the clock. So, nurses would roughly work 8 to 12-hour shifts. So there's like 3 people, okay? If they did 8-hour shifts, there's 3 people that he required to be checking in on him regularly, okay? Not only that, but then you needed somebody else to be cooking meals, you needed someone else to be cleaning, someone else to be, coordinating other things such as clothing, bedding, etc. Like, it's a lot of people and workforce that goes into just looking after one person, okay? Now, obviously, I know those 6 people, for example, would be looking after multiple people, but they wouldn't be looking after everyone in the nursing home, okay? That's too much. They would be assigned like 5 or 6 rooms or beds, and that's who they would look after, and then there'd be another 5 or 6 people. Like, all these things take jobs and qualifications and hours and time and money, all right? All that stuff contributed together is burden on the healthcare system, okay? And that's what we're trying to avoid. Now, because we know people are living longer, and we know that dementia is on the rise, more and more people require that 24/7 care, which sucks, okay? Dementia, like my pop tried to stay at home. As we tried to keep him at home with my grandma, Grandy, I call her, for as long as possible. But it came to the point where Grandy didn't feel safe anymore. Okay, because Pop was doing some strange things at home, and Grandy would end up having to basically lock him in his room and then lock her room at nights and stuff, because it wasn't unsafe, and then it wasn't safe. And then the call was just made, let's just put him in a nursing home to get the care that he needs. Yeah, so that sucks. So moving on. So while they may survive, they're disabled for the rest of their life, hence the importance of healthy aging. Okay, good. Next dash, demand for health services and workforce shortages. During the last 25 years, the Australian medical workforce has had to increase much more rapidly than the population, okay? Because all of a sudden in the last 25 years, we've had this explosion in life expectancy and people living longer, and we're able to treat conditions, and therefore people live longer, they still require care, and therefore we need much, much, much more care, all right? Those in the age group 65 years and older are the heaviest consumers of medical services in Australia, and as such have a higher demand for the services as a result of the growing and aging population, okay? So remember, it's growing and aging population. So not only is the population aging, so we're getting older, but it's growing too. Like the numbers in Australia aren't going down, they're going up. So there's more people, there's more older people, and therefore the whole thing culminates into this demand for health services 65 plus. When older people are discharged from hospital, so let's say somebody had, touch wood, this isn't going to happen, okay? Let's say I had a cardiac incident today. I would obviously go into hospital care, ambulance would be called, be checked out. I'd probably stay in hospital for 4 or 5 days, and then I'd be discharged, probably put on some medications, some monitoring, and then my life would go on, okay? If my dad, who is, 56, oh wow, he's turning like, no, he can't be turning 80, 70. He's turning 60, math is hard, 67 this year, 67. If my dad, who's 67, had a heart attack today, he wouldn't be in hospital for 4 to 5 days monitored and then sent home with some medication. He would probably go into care, okay? Or at least he would be assigned a community nurse to be checking on him regularly, okay? That's the difference, all right? I wouldn't be causing as much of a burden on the health system as my dad would, even though we would suffer from the same condition, okay? Due to age, because the likelihood of him having a second cardiac arrest is much higher, and then obviously because of organs being older and fatigued, more likely to therefore not, be resilient and bounce back. So, what was I saying? So when older people discharge from hospital, they're likely to enter residential aged care or community care or just care in general. It's all a burden, okay? Government and private residential aged care facilities are rapidly increasing in numbers as current facilities are full and the demand is still increasing, okay? So I've been saying this for about 6 years now, like especially my Year 12 students getting towards the end of their HSC, like, sir, what should I do as a job? That's easy. Go into aged care. You will always have a job in aged care. If anything, the jobs are increasing and they just need more and more and more carers. I mean, yeah, it's not the nicest work, but if you can get past that and you're okay with medical stuff, go work in aged care, or even just go work in the kitchens in aged care facilities. Like, you'll always have a job for your life. You'll be set. Never have to worry about it. No one's ever going to fire people from aged care facilities as long as you're not abusing the patients or anything. Like right now, they're building a new aged care facility just down the road here at Warners Bay Road. So yeah, they're popping up all over the place, and they need to. They're not popping up to make money. They're popping up because the demand's there. Hospitals are full. HCF facilities are full. People aren't getting the care they need at home. They need a place to go. So, 2 strategies to help address the demand for health services and workforce include increasing number of available volunteers and carers. Okay, so trying to get back on the track of promoting volunteering and caring. Okay. When I was young, a lot of people who would have been like my grandma's age at the time, but because I was young, she would have been like 50 or 60. They were like, heaps of them were like volunteering and caring and going around, and they'd all check on somebody. Like, it was a nice little community care system they had going. But these days, like I look at my mum now, for example, and my mother-in-law, like neither of them are caring for somebody elderly, and if anything, they probably both need care themselves. So that's one strategy. Let's increase the number of carers and available volunteers to do that. And the other one is like addressing specific needs of elderly to try and improve their quality of life, such as physical activity options for the elderly, okay? So one of the reasons why people choose to go to like nursing homes and stuff is for social aspects and for activities. But if we could do more of that in the community and then keep them out of the homes, then we can put people who probably need the homes and care more importantly and influence those people to go there. So the next dash, we've got availability of carers and volunteers. So volunteer organisations greatly reduce the impact of the growing and ageing population on the public health system, okay, by assisting the elderly to remain in their own homes, which is called community care. So I just spoke about that, right? There are formal carers, and formal carers are paid. Okay, so a agency employs them to, and usually what it is, it's like a nurse who has retired, but they've got the skills, the qualifications, the knowledge, the experience to help care for somebody in a formal aspect, all right? So they drive around to like 4 or 5 people's houses, and they just check on them, change dressings, help them shower, get dressed, all that kind of stuff. And then there's also informal, which are unpaid carers, okay? And so informal carers will generally just do other things like grocery runs or transportation or just coming over and having a cup of tea and having a chat. All right, like all of that stuff is important for the health of an individual. Okay, to assist in looking after the elderly who have experienced illness, disease, or disability. So the amount of carers and volunteers that we have, if we increase that, it's going to increase the amount of elderly people who require care to stay at home as opposed to like going into a formal facility. And if you stay at home, it drastically reduces the burden, okay? Because even though the formal carers need to be paid, they're generally not paid as much as someone who works in a facility. But also if you're in a facility, you also need to pay for a bed, you need to pay for treatments, you need to pay for equipment, you get the idea. So the general progression for care is as follows. Number one, informal care at home, which is usually done by family members, okay? So grandma or granddad experiences something and then they just get care from the family members as best as possible. When that care is no longer adequate enough, we then go to number two, which is extended aged care at home. So that's a formal carer. So it's a nurse who is generally employed by primary health services or an aged care facility who will come out to your home, give the appropriate medical, like qualified care, but still keep the person at home. So that's what my pop was having for quite a while. And then when that's not good enough, then you move to number three, which is residential aged care. So the person then moves to a facility to be cared for. Volunteer and care organisations can cover needs such as community nursing and health care centres, meals and food services, and domestic help and personal care, groceries, cleaning, tidying, dressing, showering, all that kind of stuff. Due to the ageing population and a large number of volunteers being retirees and aged, okay, so when you finish your job, then you have time, you're like, what can I do with my time? Oh, I might volunteer and help the aged care, okay? But then those people eventually get old themselves and then they need care. So it's this strange cycle where someone is actually helping for a bit, but then all of a sudden one day they need care themselves and then now there's two people that need care as opposed to one. And then someone else has to provide that care. And so it's just because of the growing and aging population, because of more people living longer, more people need care. Therefore, more people need to do the care. Therefore, the burden increases. Like I keep repeating myself, but you should be getting the point of this dot point. Finally, organisations such as Anglicare and Nurses on Wheels are in high demand for volunteers and are currently suffering worker shortages, once again, due to the growing and ageing population. Whew, that was a lot of talking, but that was our Critical Question 2 summary video, summarised as best I could. Thanks, bye.